Texas, a land of wide horizons, booming cities, oil rigs, tech startups, barbecue, and cowboy pride. Known for its independence, its swagger, and its rapid economic growth, Texas has long been a symbol of American strength and self-reliance. Cities like Austin, Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio have grown into sprawling urban centers, attracting workers, investors, and dreamers from across the nation. But behind the prosperity, hidden beneath the skyscrapers and highways, is a growing humanitarian crisis, one that Texas, for all its power, continues to ignore. More than 27,000 people are estimated to be homeless in Texas, according to official counts. But anyone who walks the streets of Austin or drives under Houston's overpasses knows that the number is likely far higher. Tents cluster in public parks. Shopping carts brim with belongings on downtown sidewalks. People sleep under bridges, in alleys, behind convenience stores, and on the hot pavement, wrapped in tarps or blankets. These are not rare sights. They are a daily, visible part of life in the Lone Star State. At first glance, the scale of Texas might make the problem seem manageable. After all, this is a massive state with room to spare. But homelessness doesn't just come from a lack of space. It comes from a lack of will, of policy, of compassion. And while the state grows richer, the homeless population grows more desperate. Start with the cost of housing. Texas used to pride itself on being affordable, a place where the American dream was still within reach. But that's changed. As cities like Austin and Dallas have exploded with growth, housing prices have skyrocketed. In Austin, the median rent for a one-bedroom apartment is over $2,500 a month, a number unthinkable just a decade ago. Dallas and Houston aren't far behind. Meanwhile, wages for working-class residents have barely budged. The math doesn't add up. For minimum wage workers, affordable housing simply doesn't exist. For many, one missed paycheck, one health emergency, one job loss, and the sidewalk becomes the only option left. The problem is compounded by a dire shortage of affordable housing. Texas has lost tens of thousands of low-income housing units over the past decade, even as demand has surged. Developers chase profits, building luxury condos instead of modest homes. Gentrification forces out long-time residents, especially in minority neighborhoods. Rent control is virtually non-existent, and tenant protections are weak. In most Texas cities, landlords hold the power, and eviction is fast, cheap, and devastating. For those who end up on the street, life becomes a daily battle for survival. Texas weather is extreme. Blistering summers with temperatures soaring above 100 degrees, sudden storms that flood city streets, and cold snaps that can turn fatal in hours. Homeless shelters are often full, especially during extreme weather, leaving people to sleep outside, vulnerable to the elements and the dangers of the street. Mental illness is a major factor in Texas's homelessness crisis. The state ranks near the bottom in mental health care funding per capita. That means long waits for treatment, a shortage of psychiatrists and therapists, and a patchwork of services that are often hard to navigate, especially for someone living on the street. Without treatment, mental health conditions worsen, leading to erratic behavior, social isolation, and sometimes encounters with law enforcement that end in jail instead of help. Substance abuse also plays a significant role. Methamphetamine, heroin, fentanyl, and alcohol are widely available and often used to numb pain, physical and emotional. Many people experiencing homelessness turn to drugs not because they are criminals, but because they are traumatized, lonely, and exhausted. But instead of offering treatment and support, Texas often responds with punishment. Drug charges pile up, criminal records grow, and the path back to housing becomes steeper. The criminalization of homelessness is perhaps the cruelest part of Texas's approach. In many cities, it is illegal to sit, sleep, or lie down in public spaces. In 2021, Texas passed a statewide law banning public camping, a move that effectively made it illegal to be homeless. Those caught violating the law can face fines or even arrest. Cities like Austin have conducted repeated sweeps of homeless encampments, displacing hundreds of people at a time, destroying tents and personal belongings in the process. But these sweeps don't solve homelessness. They just shuffle it around. People move from one underpass to the next, from one park to another. The tents return, and the cycle begins again. Without housing, without services, without support, people have nowhere to go. And yet, many leaders continue to frame homelessness as a nuisance to be removed, not a crisis to be solved. This punitive approach also reflects deeper political divides. In Texas, homelessness has become a wedge issue, caught between conservative leaders who see it as a symptom of personal failure or urban mismanagement, and progressive advocates who push for housing, harm reduction, and systemic change. But the people sleeping on the streets don't care about politics. They care about food, safety, shelter, and dignity. Let's talk about the human side of this crisis. In Houston, the city has made national headlines for its efforts to reduce homelessness through a housing-first model. By providing permanent supportive housing and pairing it with case management and medical services, Houston has housed more than 25,000 people over the past decade. It's a model that works, but it requires coordination, funding, and the political will to treat housing as a human right. Austin, meanwhile, has taken a different approach. After reinstating a ban on public camping, the city saw an immediate increase in police involvement, encampment sweeps, and legal battles. While some temporary shelters and hotel conversions have provided relief, the demand far exceeds the supply. Hundreds still sleep under I-35, along Lady Bird Lake, and on downtown sidewalks. And as the city debates policy, people continue to die on the streets. Dallas faces similar challenges. The city has expanded shelter capacity and launched pilot programs to house the chronically homeless. But the need is overwhelming. In Dallas County, thousands live unsheltered, and the most vulnerable, the elderly, the disabled, and those with mental illness, are often the least able to navigate the system. In rural Texas, the crisis is less visible, but no less real. People sleep in cars, barns, abandoned houses. Some live in tents along rivers or camp out on private land. There are fewer shelters, fewer services, and even less attention. Homelessness in rural Texas often means complete isolation, no transportation, no outreach, no options. Among the most at risk are Texas's youth. Thousands of teenagers are homeless, many escaping abuse, neglect, or rejection due to their sexual orientation or gender identity. LGBTQ+ youth are vastly overrepresented among the homeless population. Without family support, they face staggering rates of assault, exploitation, and suicide. Veterans, too, make up a significant portion of Texas's homeless population. Men and women who served their country only to be discarded by the systems they fought for. PTSD, physical disabilities, and the difficulty of reintegrating into civilian life leave many veterans without a safety net. And while some VA programs exist, they are often underfunded or hard to access. And let's not forget families, the fastest growing segment of the homeless population in Texas. Mothers and children, fathers working 2 jobs but still unable to afford rent, families living in cars or motels. The trauma of homelessness affects every part of a child's life, their education, their health, their future. So what can be done? First, Texas must invest in housing, not just market-rate condos and luxury apartments, but deeply affordable housing for those at the bottom of the income scale. That means public housing, subsidized housing, and incentives for nonprofits to build units that are actually affordable for the poorest residents. Second, mental health and addiction services must be expanded statewide. This isn't just about more clinics. It's about mobile outreach teams, peer counselors, residential treatment centers, and systems that don't punish people for being sick. Third, stop criminalizing homelessness. Laws that punish people for sleeping in public spaces are both cruel and counterproductive. We need a shift in thinking, from policing to support, from punishment to compassion. Fourth, prevention. Homelessness doesn't start when someone ends up on the street. It starts with poverty, eviction, domestic violence, medical debt. Keeping people housed in the first place is far cheaper and more humane than trying to rehouse them later. Texas is a state of enormous resources. It has the land, the money, and the talent to solve this crisis. What it needs now is the courage to act, because no child should sleep in a car. No veteran should beg for change. No mother should face eviction while working full-time. And no human being should be treated as disposable. Homelessness is not inevitable. It's a policy choice, and it's a choice that Texas continues to make. Every day it fails to act. The tents under the highways, the faces behind the dumpsters, the families in parking lots. They all tell the same story, a state that has left too many behind. This is the homelessness crisis in Texas. It's not just about poverty, it's about politics, priorities, and power. And until those change, the crisis will only grow. Only